to Around Comics. 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 You're listening to Around Comics.
Naked and Afraid. I needed an update.
The show needs you. The show needs the tension, the internal tension of someone who has to go to the bathroom the whole time, pushing the pace.
I'm shut the door. Hold on.
You're gonna.
All right, nice.
Now what are you doing?
Putting together an IKEA bookshelf. while we recorded.
It's a lot of Allen wrenches, man. There we go. All right, are we ready to do this thing?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sorry for the delay. My children were all crying at the same time.
Oh, those little brats.
They always know when I have something to do.
Dad looks like something. He's getting ready to do.
They can
something
always
he
sense
enjoys.
it.
We need to stop this now.
Yeah, exactly. They are very intuitive, and they know when it's like, why is Dad trying to like do all this by a certain time? It's like we gotta slow this all down.
All right, are we ready?
Yeah. Hold on one second. Okay.
Get your notes pulled up. There's notes. Tom hates everything.
No, I don't hate everything.
Tom thinks everything is stupid.
It's all bad. Everything's bad.
Everything is bad. It's just
comics are kind of stupid.
If it was just
be
better.
Comics are kind of stupid.
They are.
Let's be honest.
We're this at
Many
8:30.
of them.
Are we gonna do? We'll. I'll gauge you guys after an hour and see how we're feeling.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Tom has crying children and a IKEA bookcase to put together.
They should be fine. They should now be asleep.
They're drugged heavily at this point.
They're drugged heavily. They wore themselves out, driving me crazy.
I actually kind of love the idea of Tom at the end of the night using a blow darts on his children.
Oh my God! I wish.
That'd be the best.
I wish there was a fucking off button, but there isn't. They just keep going.
See, my daughter's at Great America right now, so she'll be there all night, and then my son is watching the NBA Finals without me, so I'm in a different.
There you go.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm still.
You're in a different phase.
Yeah. I'm bummed about the NBA fight. I was getting wrapped up in Fear of the Deer magic.
I'll tell you, my son is a gigantic Giannis fan. He bought his jersey.
It's just Giannis.
My son loves Giannis.
Giannis is awesome. We love everyone in Milwaukee loves Giannis. He is the best.
He's hoping that when he's a free agent, he's going to leave and come to Chicago. But I told him don't hold out.
Oh yeah, if he leaves, I don't think it'll be for Chicago.
Yeah, right.
But...
That's
that's
what I told him. Like, why would he want to come here? This is the worst place for a basketball player.
It's tough to explain to kids all that stuff. Where you're like, listen. If he's going to go somewhere, he's probably not going to choose one of the weirdest run franchises.
Yeah. He's going to go somewhere.
I had to explain to him why I thought
it's called the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
I had to sit him down and sort of break it to him that the NBA draft lottery may be fixed, and there was no chance the NBA was going to let Zion go to the Chicago Bulls.
He will be a Pelican.
Yeah. Would rather you go to the Pelicans than Chicago.
Get ruined in Chicago.
Right.
Don't do it.
Giannis is going to get all of the max money from Milwaukee. They're going to give they're going to give him all of the money. He's pretty good.
Well, they got him cheap, so
yeah.
Okay. But they drafted him, and then he grew another 4 inches.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. It's crazy Greeks. All right, we ready? We gonna do this thing?
Yeah, I've been recording. Do you want?
That's fine. Leave it in.
Let's go. Okay, guys. This is natural.
Hot mic. All right. Count me in, Sal.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I forgot. In 3, 2, and 1.
From Chicago, this is Around Comics, the comic culture podcast, where we talk about everything in and around the world of comics and comics culture. I'm your host, Christopher Niesman, and I'm joined, as always, by my partner in crime, Mr. Brian Salazar.
Hello.
Yes. And Mr. Tom Caters. How are you?
Hello. This is around doing
funny fucking voice night, apparently.
Theater of the mind. You can be anybody you want.
I'm a DM in a Dungeons and Dragons group, and I forgot my map.
Oh God, I
the
can't
other day.
imagine. I can't imagine you as a dungeon master. That sounds.
I'm awesome.
I just think of the hours and hours and hours of prep time that you put into.
Oh no! Sal, you don't know me anymore because I put no prep time into this one.
Oh.
Forgot my fucking map and looked at my my crew, and I was like, tonight, theater of the mind.
We're just going with it.
Yeah, we're actually playing exactly. I love theater of the mind. We're playing Dragon Heist. It's Waterdeep Dragon Heist.
Yeah,
love it.
Nice. I was doing Ravenloft.
So
Yeah, with my niece and nephew and my son and daughter. We were like halfway through the Ravenloft campaign book, which is pretty cool. But
it's the D&D has gotten weirdly popular. It's what's the Kickstarter of the Tim Rackridge? Freaky Tiki's a big fan of this YouTube group that they had a $2 million Kickstarter. They're all voice actors out in LA, and whatever. It's I'll think of it later. But
bunchoffuckingnerds.com.
Bunchoffuckingnerds.com. Dragon's Guild. But that's role playing and not comics, and we're here to talk about comics. And so
because we always stick right in that lane. We never
talk about dungeons. We can talk about Dungeons and Dragons. It's fine. I think it's.
Yeah, I don't see there's anything wrong with
that. Yeah, there's anything wrong with that.
Being a DM, there's a lot of pressure involved.
Dude, I forgot how much reading there is in being a DM. I'm like, what the fuck?
Guys, I'm exhausted just thinking about it. I gotta.
I am so lucky because so this is like a next level nerdy geeky. So my curling club, in the off season, we use the warm room at the curling club for game night, and we do Dungeons and Dragons on Wednesdays.
Jesus,
and so it's like
Jesus Christ.
It's 10 curlers in at the curling club.
This is like coming all the way around. It's so fucking nerdy. It's almost cool.
This eternal virgins.
So we've grown it from 5 to 10. So now we actually have 2 campaigns going at the same time. They're running out of the same campaign book, and I'm very much a junior DM, and the guy running the other one has been doing it for a while, and so it's at least twice a night I'll yell across the room. It's like, Jim, explain passive perception to me again.
You're pathetic. You're not a DM.
Yeah.
You're a fucking phony. You're not doing it.
I'm the guy that volunteered to run the campaign while everyone else could play.
Dungeon novice. You're no master.
You're no master, sir.
All right, enough picking on me.
Well, wait. I was gonna say that they brought up something. It was funny because there's been 2 times now in my life where I felt oddly out of place in a place that I shouldn't feel that way. And it was one when I went and did some stand-up comedy at a open mic, and the second place was when I went to buy a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons stuff with my son, and both times, like, I walk in the place and it's a bunch of nerds, in a comedy club, and then there's a bunch of nerds in a game store. And they
You're
look at
among
me,
your people.
but I should be, but I'm not anymore. They're not my people. And I guess I don't look enough like a nerd anymore. I'm not like, 340 pounds.
What do you want, old man?
Yeah, they look at me like, I'm like, what the fuck?
$4,000 suit.
My Armani, I'm wearing my Armani suit and my Gucci belt.
Parking the Lamborghini out in front of the TV store,
It's a weird feeling. I felt like a hot girl in a comic book store. It was
it's like, why is everyone staring at me?
Well, the Comedy Store one, it was funny. I was sitting there at the bar beforehand, not the Comedy Store, but the comedy club that I went to do an open mic. And this was a few years back. And I'm sitting at the bar and I'm waiting, and there's a TV on, and it's the dude from the Nerdist, and then he did the Talking Dead. Chris
Hartwig.
Yeah, who I can't stand. I never liked that guy. But so I'm sitting there, and there's this guy sitting next to me. He's another comedian, and we're talking. He asked me something about Hardwick or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, I never really liked that dude. And he says to me, why? Does he look like the kind of guys you beat up in high school? I'm like, no, he's a fake nerd. I'm the real nerd, you fucker.
That's awesome.
But he was like giving me shit, like, oh, what, you don't like him because he's a he's a nerd? It's like, really? That's what I get now.
No, because he's speaking of stand-up, Netflix show that I want to get your opinion on. Yes. It's an interesting format. Have you watched Bonding yet?
I have not. No, I have seen the trailer for it. The trailer. Watched it.
I mean, I like it so far. The interesting thing about it, I think it's like maybe 8 episodes, and they're about 17, 18 minutes an episode.
Oh.
So, yeah, which is kind of the nice thing about streaming episodes or streaming TV shows or whatever, is that, they can be whatever they need to be. There's no reason to, hit that like 22-minute, sitcom benchmark or whatever.
Yeah. And it's also good because the first wave of breaking that, we don't have to be 22 minutes long, was like, we're going to be 35 minutes long. And
yes.
Then it was like, oh, this is too fucking long for a comedy. So thankfully now people are like, well, actually we don't have to be that long.
Yeah.
Instead of fighting that urge to like, the thing we should do is make it longer.
And I guess that is the thing I enjoy about that show, is that they can actually tell the chunk of story they need to in about 16 minutes. And it's very economical, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I haven't checked it out yet. I'll have to take a look at that. Yeah. I don't know. It didn't seem like there was something about it that I was like, probably.
It's odd. The little hook there is that the guy that kind of gets kind of rung into this world is that he's an aspiring stand-up comedian, but are those scratch-off tickets?
I don't know what that is.
I think Tom's building that fucking IKEA bookshelf.
I'm just filing away.
Whittling. Are you whittling a unicorn? What are you?
I was just moving my chair.
Oh, okay. He's one of the half main characters, co-main characters. He's an aspiring stand-up comedian, but he can't perform in front of groups. But then he gets involved into this bondage. What do they call them? The guy. Not a madam. She's a dominatrix.
Dominatrix.
Yeah.
Not that I know.
He gets into this dominatrix business, and finds out that he can actually perform as a dominatrix assistant. It's funny. You
perform
check
comedy?
It out. So, kind of, yeah. It's check it. You may really like it, Sal.
All right, I'll check it out.
So, and Tom, you as well, just not with the kids.
Yeah. I mean, I watch everything with my kids, but they don't get to choose.
The harder the better.
Said Chernobyl.
I have not watched it yet. Is it good?
Yeah, it is.
It's brutal.
Okay. Yeah, it's very dark. It's not that.
God.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah.
Oh, it's not.
Surprisingly,
it's not the feel good series of the year.
No, but somehow, even though knowing that it would probably not be that, they've managed to make it extremely emotionally brutal.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be like a nice, fun Russian rom-com.
Yeah.
That's what I was expecting, and not quite that.
I thought it was going to be like Veep. But
I was hoping it was the next Veep.
I was confused.
That's going to be well, next year they'll come out with the Putin cut, and it's going to be like, Chernobyl meets Happy Days.
Mm-hmm.
And so that will be the very it's always sunny in Chernobyl kind of take on it.
It's always dark and gloomy. And
It's like
anything. The sun has been blocked out by ash, by radioactive ash.
Well, while we're on TV and that kind of stuff, is everyone caught up on Doom Patrol? Has everyone seen it?
I'm not.
No. You
haven't
seen it?
I haven't. Every time I go to watch
I haven't caught up to it.
I fall asleep.
I will only say this. It is. It absolutely stuck the landing. It was so good. I can't wait for you guys to watch it so we can talk about it more. But Doom Patrol is by itself is worth your DC Universe subscription. I loved
what I watched of it.
So it is so good.
It's 10 episodes, right?
Yeah. Once they,
I think I'm on like 7. Maybe.
Mm-hmm. So fucking. The Flex stuff down. Is so good. Loved it.
Relax.
Speaking of length of episodes, the one thing every once in a while I'm like, I wish they'd just make these episodes shorter.
Oh, of Doom Patrol?
Yeah, just a little bit. Some of the
sure.
They're a little honestly 50 minutes of just straight story is fucking long. Is like a long chunk of, for someone who can barely pay attention to anything for more than like half an hour.
That's my problem. Is like if I have the time where there's not a fight going on between my kids or my wife randomly singing songs by Elton John or something going, my dog's trying to kill the mailman. If I do have time, it's usually late at night, and I can't pay attention long enough. I fall asleep, or it's just like it's hard to pay attention.
If I find myself
classic dad
on I watch it on the Roku.
I get home from the factory and I pop open a 6-pack. I sit on the recliner, the lazy boy, Old Faithful, and the next thing you know, I'm, sawing wood.
Yeah.
Hey, if I can watch, my wife says that as soon as I lay down, she's like, he's falling asleep. It doesn't matter if I'm like, don't worry, put it on, I'll watch it. It's like if I'm in a reclined position. No, it is not a judgment on whatever I'm watching or reading at that time.
Yeah.
It's simply like I will fall asleep. It's just like, yep, I'm laying down. My body's just like, fuck you. You're not going to finish watching this movie that you enjoy. You are definitely 100% going to fall asleep. So it's always like, I'm like, oh, fuck. I got to sit down. I got to, if I'm going to watch it, I got to make sure I'm sitting up the whole time. I can't lay down.
Puts on a pot of coffee.
Yeah, it's just like, I gotta stay awake, guys. It's past 10. This is.
I understand.
It's like, oh god.
You haven't crossed that 40 threshold yet, have you?
No, I have not.
No, it doesn't get better.
You just get real tired.
It just gets. Yeah. I can't. I used to be able to read comics horizontally, my body being horizontal. Not now horizontal. 8 pages, done. Asleep.
I could fall asleep right now.
Hey, I've done it on podcast.
I could just lie down right now and go to sleep.
Yeah, you have done that, Chris, haven't you? You've actually fallen asleep in the middle of a podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, completely understandable considering.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I was going to say it could have been because of the company, and that's just for you, David. I love you. Gonna get a text about that. All right, so what have y'all been reading? Let's talk some actual comics here.
All right, so
you go first.
All right, in anticipation of the Swamp Thing TV show coming out on DC Universe, I went back, and I have to admit, I am of all the Alan Moore stuff that I have read, Swamp Thing is one of those that I really haven't read his Swamp Thing before, and I haven't read, I don't think, any Swamp Thing really in depth for more than a couple of issues. I think it's a dumb character, quite honestly. I've always thought Swamp Thing was kind of dumb. And after reading, I went back and I first read the Bronze Age Swamp Thing Volume 1.
Was this the Wenween Bernie Wrightson?
Yes.
And so what's it? Tales? What was the original the first appearance? What comic was it?
Oh God!
Tales
of Googling
House of Secrets. House of Secrets.
There you go.
Number 90. July 1971.
Okay.
First Swamp Thing.
First.
Alexa,
Alexa, you bitch. What is the first? So I read that, and it's pretty typical sort of horror stuff. It's every
Bronze Age horror.
Yeah, every story in it is basically the same thing. Like, he's a monster, but he's not nearly as monstrous or horrific as the humans around him, and he's really valiant and brave and heroic, and it's really humanity that are the monsters. And that's sort of every issue. There's, like 13 issues in the first volume, and kind of they're all the same. And I think that's why it sort of, petered out not long after that, 13 issues. I don't even know how many issues the first run went, but
are you the copy I have is the Roots of the Swamp Thing, the DC Comics Classic Library. Is that do you have it collected?
Yeah, I have. Well, I got it from the library. It's the Bronze Age Swamp Thing Volume 1.
Oh, so interesting. Okay. Same stuff.
Yeah, it's the first 13 issues. So it's House of Secrets number 92, and then it's Swamp Thing 1 through 12. I believe is what that collection is. Bernie Wrightson art on it, phenomenal, awesome stuff.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's unbelievable, and you just you kind of look at it, and it's all. I just see every like 70s acid rock band album cover. Like every one of those artists was stealing from Bernie Wrightson, right? Like that's all I see, like the look and the shadows and just everything that he did. But I find it, it's interesting. Like in the very first issue, the House of Secrets, it's his best friend who murders him and turns him into the Swamp Thing because he's in love with his wife, and he ends up stealing his wife, Linda. That's the first story, and that they changed that right away in the first actual Swamp Thing issue. That's not the case. It's a corporation or like thugs that work for some company, whatever, that turn him into the Swamp Thing. But like I said, every issue is. I mean, they all look great, so it's worth a read just for Wrightson's art. They're beautiful, but
sure.
And they're fun to read, to a certain degree. But they all it becomes a little repetitive. Yeah,
it's a formula. Yeah.
And then I get to the Alan Moore saga, the Swamp Thing Volume 1. And
is that the first?
Is that the first?
See. What was that? Was that his introduction to U.S. comics? He done it. what had he done anything else in the U.S. before? Because I know he had done, like Captain Britain and that kind of stuff in the U.K. Was this the first
It may have
first
been.
time?
I honestly don't know, Chris. You're asking me.
I'm Googling it right now.
Google it.
Alexa.
Alexa. Because that seems, and not to short shrift Swamp Thing, but you just kind of said it. It's always kind of a, it's an oddball character.
Yeah,
it seems like
it makes
comic
sense
to test drive a guy on. That was part of the British invasion of comics in the 80s. It's all
in 1983,
writers and art.
Len Wein hired him to write Saga the Swamp Thing. It was a poor selling monster comic, and him and Stephen Bissett, John Totleben, and Rick Veitch ended up deconstructing and reimagining the character.
It starts at Swamp Thing 20.
I think 20,
so.
Is it 20 or 21?
20.
Okay. 20 wasn't ever published though, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
I think there's something like because the collection I said something about like never before seen issue 20, like it wasn't published. I don't really anyway. Doesn't matter. But I have to. I've talked about Alan Moore over and over again, but
you are a fan?
I'm a bit of a fan of Alan Moore. Yes. But the genius, this is his first work, now that we've found out it's his first work in mainstream comics in the United States. And he takes this character, and what does he do? He analyzes it and go, okay, what's wrong with this character? Why is it not selling? Why does nobody give a shit about it? It's formulaic. But it's also that it's a human that doesn't want to be this character. It's like that angst that Alec Holland has because he's been turned into a monster and he doesn't want to be the Swamp Thing. So what does Alan Moore do? He gets rid of that.
He turns it on its head.
Yeah. Turns it on its head, and he turns him into something that's not a human anymore, who is just the Swamp Thing, and you can like get rid of that baggage. And that's just such a brilliant thing. One of the many brilliant things that Alan Moore is able to do in comics, of just like looking at this and going, okay, let's just get rid of this baggage. Let's get rid of this problem for this character and turn him into something that he can be heroic. He can be something other than a human wanting to be human again. You know what I mean? And I thought that was really brilliant of him to do that. But unfortunately, as good as he is, it still turns into, he turns it into a more mystical kind of character, and a more, there's a lot more.
I think he really embraces the horror aspect of it, and which is interesting that Alan Moore comes into comics writing a genre piece. He comes in really as a horror writer, and I think we talked about this on, AC, version 1. And Tom, I think you mentioned one of the issues in this series that like actually scared the shit out of you. And I think to be a writer in comics and to do a horror series and actually make it frightening, like fucking frightening, it's almost harder than writing real comedy, and it's certainly harder than writing traditional superhero comics.
Well, I think a lot of that, though, too, goes to the artists that were working on it, too, in that, Wrightson has like that, like you're saying, that sort of acid rock 70s, like horror feel to it. But, Veitch and the other people, Bissett, who started working on it, definitely had a much different vibe to their art than that, or it was much murkier and like dirtier and creepier and like more like you got this sense of like a swamp is filled with like rotting stuff, and like that element of it was much more present visually than I think in the Wrightson stuff, and it's like the original run of it was almost sort of like a version of The Thing, but sort of like done in like the horror tropes, like I know, it's been sort of done before, like 1,000 times in comics, at least.
You talk about the swamp, and we may talk about the TV series a little bit later, but I think one of the things in Toddleman's art and Moore's writing, it's not that the swamp is a place of decay where everything is dying. It's that the swamp is absolutely alive and just burgeoning with things that are around every tree stump or piece of fog that that's just slightly out of sight, and there's a tension that builds in the atmosphere that's and I think you're right, largely because of the art, and they touch on Swamp Thing and that swamp as being living organisms that are characters unto themselves. I mean, the swamp is a character in that series.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a very astute observation by Moore to decide that no one gives a fuck about Alec Holland. So, like, why bother? Really why does you end up with this structure where you're constantly having to return to this character that people don't see, first of all, right? Like, no one knows. Yeah. Then they don't care. Right? Like, why would anyone care about this character?
Well, you just said it. We've done Ben Grimm.
Yeah, it's just like, it's hard. It's just like it's a hard thing to do that, So it's like, yeah, just get rid of the guy no one cares about.
Well, and especially since the heart of it is with that character at that time was just he just wanted to be human again. So it's like, well, if you're never going to turn him human again.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Which you can, because then the book's over at that point. Although eventually he does show up again. But it was a weird thing, and like I said, a brilliant thing for him to figure that out and just like, let's move past it. Let's do something else with this character. And I think one of the interesting things he also does in the book is he introduces so many other characters that have gone on, to be interesting characters on their own, whether it's John Constantine or what's his name, Blood.
Did Lucifer come out of that tree? Basically,
yeah, I believe so. Yeah, Lucifer and Constantine and is it Damian Blood? What the hell's his name? Jason Blood.
Jason Blood.
Yeah. And just the sort of wide range of characters that he introduces in it, and
wait, Jason Blood, is that the demon?
The demon.
No.
Yeah.
Wait. Yes.
Wait.
Is that who I'm thinking of? Maybe I'm thinking of a different character.
Well, demon shows up
Etrigan
in Swamp
demon.
Thing. Yes. Yeah, which was not an Alan Moore.
That's a Jack Kirby.
That's a Kirby, but kind of like certainly changed the character. It's a great character for Moore to get his teeth sunk into. But yeah, I mean, Constantine that's the one.
I guess I'm just thinking because
no Swamp Thing, there is no Constantine.
Before this, did we really see Jason Blood as any type of entity? It was always Etrigan the demon.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I don't know the history enough about that character, but I guess that's why I was thinking that.
Yeah, I mean, like, attaching him to Swamp Thing, I think definitely put a different sort of tilt on what the demon was, right? Because I think by that point, the demon essentially had been sort of a short-lived series that Kirby had in the 70s. I don't know if the demon was really around, right. or of like a significance to any other characters, really, like in the DC universe on any level,
And the way that he uses him, he's much more nefarious.
Yes.
Wait, you mean a character like the demon fits into a horror comic pretty well?
A little bit. Yeah, pretty well. But
I mean, the cool thing was that like the Swamp Thing had so many great ancillary characters to it, which seems it's kind of amazing in a way, right? Like when you have one book that comes out once a month, and you can build this sort of like universe around Swamp Thing that feels really deep and like with all kinds of characters in it. but you're not doing it like, it's not like you have a whole universe of books telling that story, right? You have one book telling that story of like, which is sort of, that's why Alan Moore is.
It's interesting because it really, in rereading it, it reminds me a lot about like Sandman and Gaiman's universe that he built out of that book. You know what I mean? Like all these the sort of magical, mystical creatures. With Alan Moore, it was the green and that whole sort of universe or part of the universe. And with Sandman, it's obviously the endless. But
it sets up the same template for Hellblazer, because Hellblazer kind of sets that world and has all of the ancillary characters. So it really is kind of the template for what would go on to be, Vertigo's longest running series easily.
Yeah, it's interesting how so much kind of grew out of it. But at the same time, I still sort of
think
that Swamp Thing is dumb. Like, he's kind of just a dumb character. Like, all this, like, Moore was able to do all this really cool stuff, but, I mean, from the very beginning, like, Len Wein thought of the character on the subway one day and just started writing it, and, they made this book, and it didn't do very well, and then Alan Moore, comes in and does an amazing job, but it's still like, he ends up being sort of a totem more than anything else, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't affect that much change.
Mind of itself series.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's just so it's funny. Like, I always thought he was kind of dumb, and even after rereading all this stuff or reading it, I kind of still think he's dumb. But I guess I appreciate the world that came out of it more than I do the character itself.
Yeah, like Swamp Thing is kind of a dumb character.
Yeah,
most characters. It's like it's a Swamp Thing,
right?
It's like yeah.
So it's kind of
have you all seen have you seen the DC Universe series yet, the first episode?
Not yet.
I did watch it.
What'd you think? I have literally heard nothing about it. I don't know. I haven't looked at it.
I had a lot of problems with it.
You had a lot of problems with it? There's enough
Yeah.
There to, I mean, I didn't have problems with it. It was entertaining enough, I thought.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
So you know the TV shows that are supposed to be set in Chicago, but they're so obviously not Chicago. And I'm looking at you, Mike and Molly, and many other. It's the Hollywood version of Chicago. And anytime that I call it the Doc Hollywood South, anytime that there is a show or a movie that is supposed to be set in the American South, it is populated with really beautiful people or just so obviously fucked up weird people that it's not reality. It's one of the things I think I told you guys I was going to have a weird counterpoint. It's one of the things I loved about Justified, the series, is that it showed rural Kentucky in a modern, contemporary way that wasn't either.
Oh, come on! Those people. Look at. Every character in Justified, other than the main, what's his name, was a fucking weirdo. They were all either meth heads or fucking lunatics or some sort of assassin.
That was not accurate to Kentucky.
That was not fucking the South any more than Kentucky Fried Movie was the South.
But certainly more believable than I look at Swamp Thing, and it's like this is a Hollywood set. And so that was one of my first big problems with it, is that it's the glitzy, grimy version of the South, and then there's the other thing. So one spoiler: there's an attack of a big plant creature, and they have to burn this thing. At what point was he ever a smoker in the series where he would have a Zippo lighter in his pocket?
Really? That's what you're picking out to have a problem if the guy had a...
It's just... bad. It was bad. It was not bad.
I think you're nitpicking, like, two things very odd. He had a lighter in his pocket.
Lighter.
But
I have a lighter in my pocket a lot of times.
You do not.
If I'm out in a swamp, I absolutely would have a lighter.
You might have to burn something.
Yeah,
you gotta burn something.
So,
start a fire to stay warm.
I really wanted to like Swamp Thing. The problem is I just watched the first episode of Good Omens and then watched Swamp Thing, and so I went from it's like this is really good to we'll see. I'm gonna keep watching it, but
I didn't think it was great the first episode, but
it's not great.
There was things I liked about it. I was interested to see like what angle they were going to take, whether they were going to take the Alec Holland as a monster, and which evidently that's what they're going to take.
That's what they're going to do.
Yeah, as opposed to sort of the more divine Swamp Thing as the protector of the green. Maybe they'll mix that in too. I don't know. I mean, it was hard to say in that first episode because it was all preamble, but there were things about it.
So you're going to be another thing. You're going to be in a murder scene, and you're going to be hacking away at samples and also jamming out to music, so you don't hear anything around you. It's like, fuck, really?
It wasn't really a murder scene. He wasn't murdered.
There was a goddamn.
There was a body, but he wasn't murdered. Nobody killed him. It was a dead body. He wasn't a murder scene. It wasn't a murder scene. He wasn't murdered. You can't call it a murder scene.
It's a crime scene. It was
a crime scene. Not a murder scene.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a murder scene.
Well, the guy wasn't murdered.
I'm just put my headphones in.
Technically, he died of natural causes.
Yeah, technically. I was like, seriously.
Oh, Swamp Thing should say that after he kills somebody.
You died of natural
Swamp
causes.
Thing should turn to the camera and say, "It looks like he died of natural causes."
That's his catchphase every time he sees someone.
Yeah.
Whenever I break into someone's house and there is a dead body of obvious, odd circumstances, I'm going to throw some headphones in and start hacking away at the floor. And if some police officers happen to stumble upon me, I will be shocked.
Well, granted, okay, to counterpoint
terrible.
Well, I mean, a counterpoint is it was a day later after it had happened. Nobody had showed up. The cops even said, yeah, we didn't bother checking his house because his boat was gone. So, I mean, he was under the assumption nobody was coming because nobody had come.
Here's the other thing.
Why would he be concerned?
Where does the dog pee?
What dog?
His dog.
I don't fucking know.
Why
do you care about that stuff? Jesus Christ, what kind of fucking weirdo cares about the fake dog on a TV show where it pees when it's in his lab? Who gives a shit?
It's been in a lab on stilts in a swamp for days.
Pee wherever.
Exactly. It's I had a lot of problems.
Evidently, none of which had to do with story. It was okay. It was all right.
It was okay. Yeah, Good Omens was better.
Whoa.
You just like it because they're British. It's all your favorite British people together in one show.
You tapped into my Anglophile.
Yeah.
It's the end of the world, is it not? With an English accent. Sounds better.
I've been reading the book, Good Omens, and I don't care for it. It's
really
it's. I don't think I'm a Terry Pratchett fan.
Because you like the Gaiman.
Yeah, I like Gaiman stuff, but I don't think I'm a Terry. I don't know. That's why I was going to ask you guys. Have either of you read any of Terry Pratchett's work? Have you read Discworld or anything? Because I'd be curious.
No,
nobody's read it. I mean, it's very well revered, but I've never read it. And Good Omens is just like I didn't.
Well, Gaiman and Pratchett have done some other stuff together, right? This is not their first collaboration.
This is their only collaboration.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the only thing they ever worked on together. He was a big fan. Gaiman was a big fan of Terry Pratchett, and he was very happy when Terry suggested that they work together on this. But I'm about halfway through the book, and it took me the first episode of the TV show to understand what the fuck was going on. Because the book is just so all over the place. And Terry Pratchett does this interesting thing where he doesn't use chapters. He just keeps writing. And you kind of have to decide where chapters end and begin.
So, all right, here we go.
Yeah, it's a little weird. And so, reading the book, I'm trying to figure out, there's all these characters and all these things happening, and it seems like a really basic, a really good concept for a story. Basically, the idea is you have an angel and a demon, and they both have been, assigned Earth.
And get to like it.
And they get to like it, and then they find out that the apocalypse is coming, and they don't like that idea because they kind of like sushi and rock and roll, and they like humans, and they're sort of happy, with their job, and they don't want things to change, so now they have to stop the apocalypse. It's a great concept, but the story is so fucking meandering and I want to say ridiculous, which is hard to say when you're talking about angels and demons and the apocalypse. But it's too, it's too silly. It's too goofy for me.
It's the first episode was very much set up as it's a supernatural buddy flick.
Yeah, that's how you kind of think it's going to be.
Which I love. Yeah,
but it doesn't really end up being that. At least not from what I've seen. I don't know. It's odd. The book it's been hard for me to get through. Just because it's I don't know. I liked the first episode. I've only watched the first episode of the TV show. I liked it.
Me too. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it weighed. I love the 3-card Monty with the babies was great.
That's why I was oh, now I understand what's going on. I couldn't grasp that whole concept from the book. The whole part with the nuns and the babies and the birth and the different, I could not understand what the fuck was going on. And then I watched the TV show. I'm oh, okay. Oh. That's a third of the fucking book is getting to that point. And they do it in the first 10 minutes of the TV show. I'm oh, well, that makes complete sense now. But the book, I'm trying to get through all this weird shit with these different mothers and children. I'm what is going on here? I don't understand what's going on. It was.
Is it written with an English accent?
No. I don't think so. I literally cannot understand it.
What the hell is going on? What is a lift? What is a lorry?
There is some of that, actually.
It's a fucking trunk. There was another also British, also David Tennant. It reminds me of a book that Tom had suggested, The Adventures of Luther Arkwright. I read the graphic novel, was completely fucking lost, and then listened to the radio dramatization where Tennant plays Arkwright, and it wasn't until I listened to the audio drama that I actually understood what the fuck was going on.
There you go. Sometimes you just need it in a different format.
I just need someone to explain it to me. That's all. Please
tell me what's happening. So what is this? What?
I know that book is revered. There's a huge fan base for Good Omens, and people love that. But yeah, I was just having a really hard time with it, and I may not finish it. I may just watch the show. Fuck it.
Yeah. Sometimes that's okay. A difference between Swamp Thing and Doom Patrol and Titans and Good Omens is that you want to stay up tonight and watch all of the 6 episodes of Good Omens, you can. Do you like that as opposed to how DC Universe releases an episode every week?
Part of me does, but part of me doesn't. There's a part of me that goes, oh, I wish that I just could watch all of these. But I'm not going to sit and watch all of them anyway. So I wish I could just watch 2 at a time. If they could just release like 2 a week, I'd be happy because that would be more than enough for a week for me to watch, and then I'd be, that's enough Swamp Thing, or that's enough. I don't need all of them because I don't have 8 hours to sit and watch them anyway. So you keep cutting out.
Looking forward to Fridays. Oh, I'm sorry, dude. Can you hear me now?
Yes, but you keep cutting out like mid-sentence. We're only getting half of what you're saying.
But it's the good half.
It's the good half.
I mean, that's from what I hear, it's the good half of what's happening.
The good stuff.
Yeah,
I found myself looking forward to Fridays so I could watch the next episode of Doom Patrol.
Well, yeah, that was the thing too. Like with Titans and Doom Patrol, I didn't mind it. Like it did definitely like build anticipation. Like, okay, well now I'm looking forward to something to come out. I was doing that we talked about last time with What We Do in the Shadows, because that was on FX and I was watching it as it was coming out week to week, and it was like Thursday nights were, I'm like, okay, it's Thursday. I'm gonna, after the kids go to bed and everybody's asleep, I'm gonna sit and watch What We Do in the Shadows on Thursdays. So there is definitely, I don't know, maybe I'm just built like that because I've grown up watching TV that way. I like both. I like being able to, if I want to watch 3 episodes of something back to back, if I really get into something, I'll do that. But I kind of also like going, okay, I have to wait for the next one. It doesn't kill me. I'm going to watch it if it's good.
Mm-hmm. I think I like having it spaced out a little bit, because I think sometimes binging shows hides some of their weaknesses because you don't have time to think about anything. It's so like, I need to see the next one to fulfill this thing that just happened at the end. That then after a while, like when you sit and think about it, you're kind of like, what happened in that anyway? Like it's sort of, to me, like if I still like something enough to like watch it every week, it means like I actually like it, as opposed to like my lizard brain has been activated.
You're just trying to fulfill that cliffhanger. You're just trying to answer that cliffhanger that they leave you with.
It's like, I want to know what happens in the next one. Like there's a little bit of that sometimes when I fall into doing that. Then I'm like, but wait, do I even like this, or am I just, like I'm not pausing at all to be like, I like this show. It's just like I must just see the next one immediately now.
That happened, and they build shows now specifically just to do that.
Yes.
Like I was watching the show.
Well,
there's a show
Orange
on
is the New Black.
Yeah. There's a show on Netflix called Big Little Lies or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like bunch of big stars, bunch of big name actresses.
Isn't that it's on HBO, isn't it?
Is it HBO?
It is HBO.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And my wife is very upset because the first season was the novel, and now they have a second season, and she's not happy about it.
Shit.
They're going off book. They're going off book.
Going off book.
That's HBO. That's what they do.
That's the Game of Thrones. Hey,
Game of Thrones.
Hey, you wrote 1. We need 2. Well, guess what? We're just gonna fucking make it.
But the whole first season, like at least from what I've seen, like every episode, they keep telling you someone has died, like someone in this town that apparently is dead. But they just flash back to what's happening, and they never tell you. So it's like every episode you're waiting to find out who's dead, and they never tell you. So it's just this fucking tease every single episode to keep you watching episode after episode after episode. And it's just like, fuck you. I just want to know who died.
Tell me.
But it's just that thing of like, I don't even know if I like the show. My wife was watching and I started watching it, and we got through the first episode and she went to turn it off. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't know who died. I got to watch the next episode. Don't turn that off.
The show that was the ultimate... The show that was the sort of ultimate binge thing was when I started watching Battlestar Galactica after like a couple seasons had already gone by. Yeah, and it was very much,
I borrowed Chris's DVDs because I was like 3 seasons behind.
I didn't have kids. I think my wife was in grad school at the time, so like I literally had all the time in the fucking world. And I would just fucking watch episode after episode. I'd just fly through them.
Yeah.
Then eventually I was like, wait a second. there's stuff happening in this that I don't think is good. It's good.
Is this any good?
but I just like flew through it so fast that
it's just like heroin.
I was wait, why did they? Yeah, like what? So everybody knows each other. You know?
They're just triggering that dopamine rush in your brain, and you just want more of it, and you just keep watching. Yeah, I think I still have your DVDs, by the way, Chris.
That's fine because I think I still have some of your DVDs.
Oh,
I think I have your Alien box set.
You son of a bitch! I've been looking for that.
Everyone's a Cylon? Those people are Cylon. Just like this was really the plan from the beginning, like that. But when you're watching it, you're sort of like,
how did both have Jimi Hendrix? I don't understand.
Well, one was
You know what though? It brings up a really interesting thought about is this why we find so many people so violently disappointed with the end of episodes, because they've been teased and sort of triggered over and over and over again, episode after episode, and you're building up this sort of anticipation, and it never can fulfill in the end, because you know what I mean? Like it's like we're going to give you a little a little bit of crack every week, just a little bit, and and you're just going to want more crack and want more crack, but we can never give you enough crack.
I have bad news for a lot of people out there. Making a fulfilling series that hits every beat and ends at a point that satisfies everyone that reads, listens, or watches it is really fucking hard.
No, but what I'm saying is
it's hard to do that.
But is it also like creating unrealistic expectations, because every episode, and Game of Thrones did it in every episode and every season especially, they would leave you with these cliffhangers. I mean, it was episodic where, every week you're anticipating, waiting for the next week. And so you go through week after week, season after season of doing that. Your anticipation is going to be built up to this level that they could never satisfy the craving that you've now built into these viewers. You know what I mean?
I'm going to begrudgingly give a compliment and bring this back to comics. And my major complaint with Brian Bendis is that he never finished a goddamn story ever. It always it springboarded and led into the next thing.
Right.
And he would even talk about it. It's like, well, you go back and look at what Stan did, and that's how they would do it. It's like you would have a minor wrap up to a story, but it would always lead into the next one. So there was never a point where you could, tie a bow on it and say this is done. And is that why? Is it because there was never any way to end
it? They didn't have to end it. It works if you don't try and end it. But if you try and end it, you're gonna have a bunch of people that are not satisfied with the ending because
I need answers.
They just want more. If you could just keep making look at The Walking Dead. They just keep making it. It's the same fucking thing over and over and over again. But if you try and end it, you're gonna have a bunch of pissed off people. You're better off just keep making it. It doesn't matter. Just keep making cliffhangers.
Just get canceled.
Make it so it gets canceled. Yeah. Just make Game of Thrones until there's nothing left.
Yeah, well, I think people would be more satisfied than if you ended it. Well, obviously, but I mean, if you just kept making episodes, as long as you're stringing them along, it's a drug. People are addicted, and all of a sudden you cut off the addiction.
It's why Firefly remains so fucking popular is because they never got to fucking end it. Their movie, which, for me, it kind of ended that series and said what they needed to. But isn't it the series that never get the rightful ending that remain, have this hallowed place of fandom? It's like we finally got a Deadwood movie this week, which I haven't seen yet.
I did.
I'm looking forward to watching it because I don't feel like that series ever got its just due, and so maybe it's better when things don't end.
Well,
right?
It's like going back to Jimi Hendrix or any of the musicians or actors that die very young, and everybody all of a sudden they're legendary. And it's like, oh, if only they were slow. Yeah, well, maybe Jimi Hendrix starts putting out some really shitty music after 15, 20 years of you know what I mean? Or he turns into some lame fucking, country music stars. Who knows? But it's always the ones that are, we sort of imagine the greatness that we're missing because they were cut short, whether it's a TV show or an actor or whatever it is. I mean, I liked Firefly. It was very good, but like the people that are still like begging for a reunion show of that, it's like, yeah, those people are fucking old now. I don't think you really need.
I don't think you want to see them. Yeah.
Well, there's gonna be a relaunch of Buffy. Have you heard this?
A relaunch or like
they're gonna do a new Buffy series.
Oh well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Why not? I mean, you can redo anything. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know if it's a redo or it's a relaunch.
Is it a reunion though? Is it like the original cast or brand new actors?
Is it a reboot? A relaunch?
It's a relaunch. It's a reunion because they're going to use old cast members. It's going to be a continuation.
I think they should relaunch MASH. Some of those guys are still alive, right? Yeah. Alan Alda's still around. It was the greatest TV show.
Just act like it's still the Korean War.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a great last episode.
It was.
And then they did After MASH.
I don't think I ever saw After MASH.
You and a lot of other people didn't see it. Shall we wrap this one up, gents?
Sure we can. I mean, I don't know if we have anything else.
We're about an hour, right?
We only talked about like 3 things, but
yeah, that's okay. Fine. People can come back in a couple weeks and listen to everything else that we have to say.
All right. I guess.
So let's wrap. Yeah.
How do we wrap it up?
Yeah.
How do we?
How do we wrap it up? Here's the problem, guys. The finale.
We can't end it.
No one's going to be satisfied.
People are going to
We've been giving them the little taste of the good stuff for an hour. Now it's done.
It started off strong. They had good conversation. We covered some TV, some comics, and they just didn't know how to wrap it up.
Sal just stood there looking out of a window for the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, what the fuck happened?
It's the Around Comics episode 305. Can't stick the landing, right?
At least we didn't jump the shark. Did we jump the shark yet?
We did that a long time ago. All right. Well,
I've yet to watch an episode of Game of Thrones.
Really?
Yet I feel like
I would think you would.
I read the first book and I was like, I'll get around to it someday.
Yeah,
I guess. I don't know.
Let it all die down. Let all the hysteria.
Sit down and I read the first book. I was like, yeah, that's good. I don't know if I want to read a bunch of these though. So then when the TV on, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I don't have to these big thick ass books where he's like talking about what's on the fucking dinner table for 5 pages.
The show definitely does a good job of cutting out the fat because he writes a lot of stuff. It's like, oh Jesus, I don't need to know that person. That cousin, the fourth cousin of
Perhaps when I was younger, I would have the wherewithal to read these books, but now I'm
running out of time, Tom. I don't have time for some 600 page.
I'm gonna die someday. I gotta lie old. I tell you what, I can lie down and read this book. I will definitely fucking fall asleep when I have to flip back and be like, who's Theon? Like,
it was good, man.
Who is this character? What is
still
this?
The show though. I swear. What? 3 seasons of the show, I still couldn't figure out who everybody was. Like, what was that character's name?
Bunch of guys with beards. Sound like got like a different outfit on.
Oh. So I was like, oh, fuck, I haven't seen you in like 4 fucking years. Why are you back? Yeah. So, well, anyway, let's wrap this one up. Also wish everyone a happy Memorial Day weekend. Hope you had a wonderful time with your friends and family and had a couple moments of reflection.
What it's about, Chris.
And had a couple moments of reflection for those who have paid the ultimate price for our freedom. Thank you, Sal.
It's too late. It's like 2 weeks ago. What are you talking about that now?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Like,
go put out your platitudes, your bullshit patriotic platitudes on Facebook like everybody else. Come on.
I didn't go to like a shoe sale or anything like that. So actually,
we're talking about 4th of July. We're like probably. Yeah.
I hate both of you.
Yeah.
All right.
Everyone's gonna look like, what? When did they record this?
Happy Boxing Day, everyone.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Around Comics. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another episode. In the meantime,
in between time,
we'll be everywhere in
and around comics.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy Easter. It was Easter like a month ago, right? 2 months ago? 3? It's not too late.
Hey, whenever you only record once a fucking month.
It's Jesus' birthday. We can talk about it anytime. Wait, no.
All right. I gotta pee.